Welcome to the Corner Kick Show. I am your host, Nick Prokop. As always, with me is Tyler Whiteside. Say hello, Tyler.
Hello, universe.
And Joey DiNapoli.
Buongiorno.
Gentlemen, how can everybody find you via the Twitterverse?
At ProtectYourNet for me. It's Tyler.
I can be found at Buckeye Italian.
All right, and at Buckeye Nick 7 for me. As always, the Corner Kick Show is produced and put out there by the Tangent Bound Network, tangentboundnetwork.com, where all of your different needs when it comes to podcasts. We are setting up, actually, I found out this week, different channels, so when you go there, instead of just having a big list of podcasts, you'll have a sports option to find us, you'll have a nerdy geek option to find comic book stuff or movie stuff or anything like that, and then you can find the different categorized podcasts and then listen at your own pleasure. To get into it, last night in Europe, we had Sevilla, back-to-back winners of Europa League over Dnipro. I'm actually pretty excited for them because they actually have a pretty good team. Carlos Bacca is a very good Colombian striker. But I want to discuss with you guys the Europa League winners getting a spot into Champions League. As we discussed a couple podcasts ago, I am very big on the whole you win a tournament, you deserve a shot in the Champions League. Mm-hmm. I feel like this is a very good thing for Europa League because it legitimizes the tournament. And
words are hard. It's okay.
Yeah, words are hard. Guys.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. It makes the tournament actually worth something for these teams. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Joey.
It makes the tournament more worth it. I mean, you have to remember that Europa was set up because it was a consolation prize
Correct.
For teams that didn't make it into the Champions League many moons ago. So this is actually an extension of what we talked about a few shows ago with domestic cups getting a tie-in to the Champions League and what that might entail. Well, here's a scenario where it was bounced around for quite a while with Europa possibly getting a spot.
Mm-hmm.
They're champion anyway, and it's happened. And I'm glad for Sevilla that they've won it so many times now, and then they actually get their own ticket into the Champions League as well. So.
Yep. And it's very interesting because that La Liga now is going to have 5 different teams in Champions League, and that's very unprecedented in the sense that usually at the max you have 4, but La Liga will be spread out nicely amongst all the different groups.
Well, last time was Liverpool, right, when they screwed the whole pooch. When they had to rewrite the rules basically for that whole thing. It was crazy. But
pretty
anyway,
much.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. It is really exciting that they were able to win and get in. So.
Moving on to Wembley, flying into London there, Aston Villa versus Arsenal for the FA Cup on Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So, sorry, Tyler, we're not going by your times here. But
that's all right.
Aston Villa versus Arsenal, we just talked about Europa League, and Aston Villa has a chance to get into that if they win this. And if Arsenal wins, Southampton will be awarded a spot into the third round of the Europa League qualifying. Who wins? What are your thoughts on this matchup? I'm going to go ahead and start with Tyler on this one.
I think Arsenal wins. Sadly, I hate that, but I guess that's good for Southampton fans. But for me, I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't keep the previous rule, wherein if the winner is already into a European competition, that the loser of the FA Cup would get into in that person's stead. But now they changed it, whatever. But yeah, no, I guess it's cool. I just would like to see Aston Villa win. I just don't think it's going to happen. Arsenal's a sound team.
Yeah. Joey?
I echo Tyler's sentiments to a perfect T. I really hope Arsenal doesn't win. I like it when Arsenal doesn't win things.
Amen.
That's all they win.
And I'm disappointed because they didn't win their 4th place cup this year.
No, United sealed that down.
They
we should be
against
celebrating, right?
Arsenal too. That's the funny part.
We should be celebrating then, right? I mean, they always do. So let's make something happen.
Let's pop some bottles, boys. Pop some bottles. Yeah, I agree. I feel like Arsenal's going to win. I am very, very disappointed that Aston Villa doesn't get a chance to get in there. But at the same time, they're rewarding Southampton for a very good season, and they weren't that far off from the spots anyways. It's one of those situations that they were a really good team for a good portion of the season. So I feel like them not getting a chance in Europe would be kind of especially when Aston Villa was a team almost relegated. They were the last team above the drop. So it's one of those things that, yeah, they made it to the final. They should probably get a chance to go in. But do they have a deep enough squad to even make it beyond one game, in all honesty? I think that was one of the proponents for changing it to what they have now is, okay, well, the next team in the table will get it. But moving on, we're going to go to Italy, where there's only one real matchup that affects anything, and that's Napoli versus Lazio because of the Champions League implications on this. Joey, I'm going to just let you handle this whole one for us because I'm sure you got the best analysis on it.
Okay. Well, if you remember from the last show and this last weekend's results, this was set up entirely by Derby della Capitale results. Lazio missed a chance to even get 1 point against Roma, which would have secured their Champions League spot. But because they did not do that, they are now in a final fixture at Stadio San Paolo against Napoli in a match where they can still tie, but they're going to have to do it away from their own confines. So, also in the last match, Britos got red carded, so he won't be available for Napoli, which I am very ecstatic about because he's a horrible defender and very much, addition by subtraction.
Yeah.
I like his contract gets done in June, and I can't wait. I cannot wait.
You'll be popping bottles for that.
Yeah. However, there is still some question marks hanging over Napoli. It was just announced today that Rafa Benitez is definitely leaving the club. Still rumored to be joining Madrid. So we don't know what kind of approach he's going to take to this last match. And we also don't know where Gonzalo Higuain's head's going to be at either. During the last match against Juventus in Turin, he was sat at halftime for reportedly, claim that he did not get well enough service and that nature. Gonzalo is just like his brother and hot-headed at times, so it's understandable. And with all the reports of Atletico Madrid and Arsenal being interested in him, if they want to trot Gonzalo out there when he's still worth maybe 40 million euros, and there's no telling of who the next manager is going to be. The match itself, again, depending on what Napoli decides to do at striker, whether it be giving Higuain the time or Gabbiadini up front, or even Duvan Zapata is a really serviceable guy. If they have to break ties with Gonzalo in the future, then he's going to be the next man up, in my opinion.
Yeah.
This one's really hard to call. Lazio has everything in their favor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if they're still the hot team that they've been over the last 2 months. But you can rest assured that there is going to be a lot of Neapolitan fan presence at São Paulo for this last match. I don't, necessarily imagine that the Lower Bowl is going to be full by any means. It never is. But there's going to be a lot of people interested in this match, mainly because they're glad that they still have something to play for in their last week. I don't want to say Napoli's going to win this and find myself disappointed, because that's where I've been all season watching the club.
Yeah.
Especially in games where they should win, and so on and so forth. But usually those have been against teams that were bottom dwellers or perceived as teams that they had no chance of being on the same field as. I mean, recent results come to mind where Napoli's dropped points and had to settle with a tie with Parma, and Napoli got ousted by Dnipro in the Europa League. But the side is that they actually do kind of come to play against teams that, yeah, they should beat, but are, like higher echelon than the Parmas of the world. So I'm going to go ahead and go all in because there's nothing else to lose this season. I feel Napoli is going to win 2-1.
Okay, Tyler, score prediction.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Napoli. I'm not as excited probably with the score, but probably 1-0 for me.
Yeah. I'm thinking that you're going to get Gabbiadini in there with a brace. For some reason, I feel like he's going to score 2, and that's going to be it. And Lazio will probably get 1 from the kind of piss poor back end. They'll put it neatly for Napoli, so they'll at least probably get 1. But yeah, 2-1, Napoli would go through. The one nice thing I like about this matchup is that Napoli holds their own destiny, basically. If they win, they're in. And that's because the nice thing about Italy is they don't do goal differential. They go by the whole head-to-head setup, so that's very nice for them.
Defeated Lazio 1-0 at Stadio Olimpico this season, so yeah, if they do win, they're in.
Okay, awesome. Well, talking about more relegation talk over here now. Moving over to Germany, HSV versus Karlsruhe played today. The first leg at Imtech Arena for HSV. 1-1 is the final score. Really sucked because I watched most of it actually, and just to have them score in Imtech Arena because away goals do matter in this. HSV is gonna need to just go all out in the next match on Monday at Karlsruhe. But hey, if they don't make it, they're not in, and that's disappointing. But I'm really hoping for at least a 1-0 win or a 2-0 win or something along those lines on Monday. Tyler or Joe, you guys have anything to add in on HSV versus Karlsruhe?
I'd like to see HSV win, obviously. Yeah. Just to have Hamburg go down would be a travesty in football, in my opinion. I mean, that would be akin to United going down for England. I just couldn't. Yeah. I don't want to see that happen.
It's fantastic there too. So that's a good analogy there, Joey. Any other thoughts?
I mean, I like to see Hamburg stay up too. I mean, I think they're clearly the better team of the two. I mean, just because an away goal is in place right now, it doesn't. I don't see that as like any threatening death sentence to Hamburg staying up. They still have a lot of opportunities in front of them.
True, and if they get an away goal, which I expect them to at least get one in the next match, then it's even on the away goal front. So the other team would have to win to get in and all that. Speaking of relegation and promotion, though, going over to Scotland, the Rangers are trying to get back into the Scottish Premier League, but it might not look too hot after today's matchup versus Motherwell. The one thing interesting about the Scottish Premier League, for people that don't know, there are only 12 teams, so the 12th team gets automatic relegated, and the 11th team plays off playoff versus other teams in the Scottish Championship, which came down to Motherwell versus Rangers. And today, final score, Motherwell 3, Rangers 1 in the Ibrox in Glasgow. Joey, I'm going to start with you on this one. What are your thoughts?
Well, the funny thing about this matchup is that Stuart McCall, who's now the manager of Rangers, got sacked 2 or 3 matches into the season by Motherwell. He was managing there earlier this season, and he made a statement saying that the goal for Motherwell this season was to just stay up. And
Well,
with today's result, he's really trying to make do on his promise. I mean, Motherwell got rid of so many talented players after finishing second the year before in the top flight, and I mean with today's result at Ibrox, I mean with 3 goals coming within the first 50 minutes, the writing was on the wall that the Rangers just don't really
yeah.
enough class yet to even match up with Motherwell. Now there's still another fixture. This is just the first leg of it, so they'll play one game at Motherwell's grounds. But I don't see the Rangers even coming back.
Yeah, Sunday at Fir Park.
Yeah, and the way there's no away goals rule either in the Scottish playoffs, which kind of does play up to the Rangers' favor when you consider that they got scored on 3 times at home. But just watching the match, it was kind of a back and forth affair. But I mean, if Rangers can't control a match against Motherwell at home, I don't really have that much hope for them going into the second leg.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you got to add on that, Tyler?
No, I didn't watch the game, so it
That's
would
fine.
be, as much as I would like to think that Rangers should win, they've been down for quite a while now. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're up to our preview of the MLS matchups of the weekend, and we have 2 really good coast-to-coast matchups. I don't want to call them rivalries because they're not really rivalries, but they're teams that will probably be in the playoffs. In Seattle versus New York Red Bulls and LA versus New England. Let's start off with Seattle. Seattle kind of hit a snag lately, in my opinion. Although they just beat Colorado yesterday.
Yeah, last night, 1-0.
Last night. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, though, they've been kind of like up and down, win loss, win loss, win loss. It seems lately. I think that they'll do fine. Especially since it is a home game at CenturyLink Field. I'll be curious to see how the Red Bulls do on a long distance travel there. But Tyler, what are your thoughts on Seattle and New York?
Well, New York looks good at times, and then all of a sudden they just can't do anything. And so I'm a little bit concerned, but at the same time, Seattle is very similar. Like if they don't have Oba and Dempsey working together up front, it seems like they have to get goals from a right-footed shot from Papa, like last night. I mean, what the heck was that? Everybody shows him to his left, he turns right and curls it in the far post. It's a weird situation that, I don't know. If Oba and Dempsey can step it up this next game, which I bet they can, if they're even playing, who knows, because they played in the midweek. But I assume they're going to get some minutes. I would say Seattle's going to win. I just don't see the midfield of New York being able to handle the likes of Alonso.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that. Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, I have Seattle winning this one, mainly because whenever, as I said before, whenever an MLS team has to make a long distance trip, I really don't feel good about their chances winning.
Agreed.
So that coupled with Seattle's, I mean, they might not have it fully clicking yet with how to orchestrate their offense, but their defense is pretty solid. So this might be a really tight-knit affair. But still, I see Seattle coming out with this. Especially what was it last weekend with the Red Bulls losing 0 to Philadelphia?
Yeah.
They're in no form to go and make a long road trip to Seattle.
Exactly.
And to score as many goals as they did against Philadelphia. I mean, they had their chances, but I don't even see them making that many chances against a well-disciplined back line like Seattle has.
Well, here's the one point I would have that would, if New York was to win or steal a draw with this, Jesse March has them playing very centrally in the sense that the offense flows mostly through Kleshton to get it out to Sam and get it up to BWB. I I really think that could help them because essentially that's what Seattle did with their offense. Is they make everything go through the middle through Oba and Clint because they know that field is so bad and you can't really run out on the wings. So that could be one saving grace for New York in the sense that they flow through the middle, so that could help them since Seattle's doing the same thing. It also could be in a 0-0 draw because everybody's stuck in the middle of the pitch. But we'll see how that goes. I definitely am intrigued by that matchup. Everyone can see that on ESPN2, 5 p.m. on Sunday via the MLS weekend coverage. The other weekend game on that Saturday is LA versus New England. It's in New England at Gillette Stadium, and as we just said, the whole coast-to-coast thing. LA Galaxy are struggling. Can they take a win here, Joey?
I actually think they can, even after I just said that making a long-distance road trip is league. If I remember correctly, Nguyen and Tierney picked up red cards in the last match, so they should be unavailable, correct?
Correct.
So, yeah, I mean, with all the offense flowing through Nguyen, I don't see New England making very many chances. Now, LA in their last match, they struggled to do that until the very last moment. But I don't know. When you have such a vital piece out like Nguyen, I don't see a lot of confidence in a team. Like I can see it. I can see a team get stripped of their confidence when the heart of it is not there.
Yeah.
So I feel that New England's going to be exposed going into this, and LA is going to find some of their groove back, which they'll eventually lose. But for this one match, I think they'll win.
Yeah.
Tyler, go ahead.
Well, if you look in the regular season, the last 2 years with these two teams, it's always a drubbing, always a shellacking. 5-1. What was it? 5-1 last season. Their only meeting in the season, and then 5-0 the season before in New England's favor. So if the trend continues, one would say New England is going to win 4-2 or something ridiculous. But in all likelihood, I think Joey might be right. LA has not looked great, but they do have Keane back, although he did get elbowed in the face, right? So who knows how that's going. But you know, I think with Keane back, that team is completely different. It's you know, I think the confidence is the biggest thing. Knowing that they have somebody who can score at any moment is always helpful. But I don't see how the Revolution could win this game. I mean, they've looked dynamic this season, but without Wynn and Tierney, I just don't know. I don't know. I'm not feeling great about this game at all. It could be a 0-0 draw, or it could be, you know, a 3-0 win for LA. I don't have any idea.
Yeah, the big X factor for me here with Wynn being out is if Jermaine Jones can be a defensive midfielder and a provider, which he did set up a nice cross in the game against DC last week, but it wasn't really like constant attack. It was just on a really good breakaway. I think that's going to be the biggest case for New England. If they're going to win, Jermaine Jones needs to provide. And they have so many good attacking options. If there's nobody to link between the back and those guys, then they're just going to flutter off into the midfield. Keane being back is fantastic. That helps everybody else's confidence, like you said, Tyler, especially a guy like Zardes or someone like that who needs to kind of feed off of Keane. That's going to be great for his confidence. I actually am thinking 2-0 LA, just thinking about how the setup is. Without Lee Wynn, it's going to be really hard for New England to get all the pieces together. He's to me, I felt last year he deserved the MVP of the league, based on the fact that he was the glue that brought New England together, and he's basically the glue now too, because they struggled earlier in the year when he was struggling. So that kind of, to me, points that if Lee's struggling, they're struggling. That's it for MLS, but we're still going to talk USA. Just a shout, not really kind of give a preview because it's kind of hard to preview a bunch of U20 guys that half the people don't even know. But US 20 World Cup does start tomorrow. New Zealand versus oh God, who is it? New Zealand versus Ukraine starts it off tomorrow, and then later on that night you'll have USA versus Myanmar, also known as Burma for people that don't know what Myanmar is. But I'm thinking I want them, honestly, to get their confidence boost right off the bat, because the one fun fact about this matchup is this is the first ever major tournament that any level of Myanmar soccer has been to. So I'm really hoping that Tab Ramos has these guys confident and ready, and they come out and shellac them like 4 to 5-0. I probably see more of like a 2 or 3-0 game, but that would be fun to see all the young kids get a lot of goals. Probably going to see a lot of guys like Gideon Zalem, Makital, who's a Haitian-French U.S. striker. Really looking to see what he can do, and I'm really excited because he's kind of like the target forward that the Americans have never seen. But that's about it for that. I didn't really want to go too deep into it. I just wanted people to know it is airing midnight Eastern time on, I believe, Fox Sports 1. So if you're up late on the East Coast, or I think, what would that be? 10 o'clock? Okay, so if you're Mountain Time like Tyler, 10 o'clock, you could turn on the U20s playing Myanmar, which is kind of nice. I know I'm probably going to stay up and watch because the other 2 matches next week are 3 a.m., and I'm DVRing that. All right, before we get to the big news of the day and talk to that, huge shout-out to EA Sports for what they came out with today. For once, you'll have the women's national teams in a video game. The women are coming to into FIFA 16. Let me just read off what their quick little press release was. Play as the women's national teams for the first time in the FIFA franchise. Choose from 12 teams and compete in match day and offline tournaments. Available teams are Germany, USA, France, Sweden, England, Brazil, Canada, Australia, Spain, China, Italy, and Mexico. The one other note, and this really disappoints me because I wanted to see USA versus USA, the women's national teams can compete only exclusively against other women's national teams. So you can't have, I don't know, Manchester United versus U.S. women's national team, which disappoints me because I really wanted to see the U.S. women's national team be able to play against the U.S. men's national team so we could see who's really superior, which the women's national team. But Tyler, since this is new to you, I wanted you to take the floor first because I want you to hear how excited you are.
No, yeah, it's great. It's great news. I've been clamoring for this for a while. I'm disappointed in the fact that you can't play against the other teams. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's fine. They probably just don't want people, using it as a platform for sexism, which is great. But at the same time,
plus it's realistic. You won't see the guys and the women and the men play each other. So
yeah, exactly. And so it's a really cool situation that I think is a long time coming, but still at the same time it's nice that with the World Cup coming up, with that excitement, although it'll be over at that point by the time it comes out, but still it's you'll be coming off of that excitement from the Women's World Cup, and then you'll be able to get the game and be able to play with the eventual champion. And so I guess it's cool. I mean, I'm really excited about it. I'll buy it, and I was going to anyway, but now I'll be more excited to play as my favorite women's stars. Rapinoe is one of my favorites, so it's going to be really cool to be able to use her on the pitch as well. So,
Joey,
I think it's great promotion for the women's game. I really do. I don't think it's going to stop people from playing online as fucking Real Madrid and Barcelona, though. And rather disappointment is that Selena Wagner isn't on the German national team, so she's not going to be in the game.
She probably won't be.
Yeah, the player model faces look excellent. If you haven't checked it out already,
I'm going to.
They are so lifelike compared to the male counterparts. It's almost as if EA Sports decided to take twice as long working on this, just as much as the men's. So I'm I'm really glad that they've taken that initiative and stepped forward with the game. And really, it's a bigger step forward than a lot of games we know. I mean, like the WNBA isn't even included on NBA 2K15 or anything. And arguably, women's basketball is just as popular in this country, maybe a little less. But it's just good for the entire game and good for the women's game.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like on top of that, because Tyler said momentum from coming off this World Cup, I feel like sales too, because I'm sure there's plenty of there's probably like some 16-year-old girl that plays soccer, that likes playing video games, and doesn't like the fact that she can't play as the girls she looks up to with Abby Wambach, Sydney Leroux, Megan Rapinoe, and so on. So it's one of those things for me. It's like that's great because then that's gonna kind of help the game grow female-wise, and EA Sports is probably thinking, hey, let's get some money. Because honestly, that's another thought I had is it's probably a good sales pitch in the sense that they'll grow their market because there's no market share right now for women's in soccer video games. So they're basically creating their own market share of some sort of demographic, really. So that's really good for them in that sense. On top of that, though, I'm excited in the sense that USA will be dominant at something because I'm not sure how the player ratings are going to go for the women, but or if they even do them or not. They might just be like she's fast.
No, they'll do player ratings.
I hope so.
I hope they're not like all 50s overall. That would suck.
Oh, that would suck. I think they would. I think they'll kind of like rate them, like kind of like how Abby Wambach will probably be like an 88 or something like that, and then like Sydney Leroux would probably be like the Messi of the women's teams would be at like 92 or 93
relative to the women's game. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, really,
that makes sense to me. So then like Marta would be like an 86 or something like that, or an 85.
Yeah.
And oh God, what's her face? Sinclair from Canada. She would probably be up there at the same level, like an 89 or 90 or something along those lines, which is kind of cool. It would be keeping them at kind of where they are. But
they will better have higher ratings than Tyson Wall. I'm going to say that right now.
Oh God, yes. God, yes, that would be undue hate, Joey. Undue hate.
Hashtag undue hate.
Yep. Hashtag undue hate towards Tyson Wall. Okay.
No, he's a former Rapid. Kill him.
All right, so for the big news, gentlemen, what we wanted to get to talk about, FIFA and CONCACAF have been raided by the FBI, the DOJ, and the Swiss police over allegations of corruption and fixing World Cup voting and all kinds of...
They have? What the heck? I'm just kidding. Like this is the first time hearing that. I mean, it's been all over everywhere. So.
Yeah, exactly. Which, honestly, for me, it's fantastic. I love that someone's finally taking this organization to task because it's been known for years. We just kind of like, well, it's the necessary evil or whatever. We got to just turn our ears and eyes because we want to see the World Cup or we want to see the Gold Cup or we want to see whatever. But finally, someone's taking them to task and actually doing something about it.
Well, it's difficult. It's difficult to know. Like we know about it, right? But it's difficult. It's not about what you know. It's what you can prove, and they couldn't prove anything because they were, they're fucking criminals. They're good at covering their tracks.
Exactly, and that's why there's certain differences between the Swiss investigation and the USA investigation. Joey, did you want to go into depth a little bit about the Swiss investigation, and then I'll bring up a little bit of the points for the USA investigation?
Well, I mean, for the most part, the Swiss investigation has to do with the actual bids for the 2018 and 2022 World Cups. There's a series of events involved with bank transfers, tax evasion that have led up to this, and for now, on the Swiss side, they're not revealing a lot. They're just stating that these bank accounts for these FIFA executives are completely shut out. Like, there's no money going in, none coming out until all this gets resolved as in respect to the 2018 and 2022 bids. So.
Good. Well, in the USA side of this, and this is where it kind of gets interesting, because the one thing with the DOJ and the way the laws are structured around criminal activity and corruption and racketeering and all those things that they were indicted with today, it has to happen either on U.S. soil or via like a U.S. bank or something along those lines. So that's one of the reasons why, because people have been asking why they're not jointly helping with the 2018-22 bids, which I'm sure they are, because I'm sure a lot of the evidence is for the same stuff anyways. So I'm sure it's kind of...
Well, in the indictment, they mentioned the 2010 World Cup and how all these funds...
And that happened on U.S. soil, so that's why they can go through that, because Jack Warner had all those bribes done through the Miami office of CONCACAF.
Yeah, and $10 million just going to his own personal bank account. I mean, come on, man. You had to know that was going to catch up to him. Come on.
Exactly. That's why I don't understand that. It's like you knew you were putting that money in there. Well, and that's the thing. Apparently they've been, I don't know if it's just been a lowly part of the FBI, but apparently there's been people on the case for 24 years, which seems like a lot. I don't know what got the ball rolling to finally get it going, other than the only thing I can think of is when a couple years ago they talked about Chuck Blazer. And one of the interesting things about that, too, to point out, was Chuck Blazer was basically wearing wires and things along those lines to help out the FBI investigation for the corruption case. The coolest wire I think that they did was they put a wire in his key fob for his Hummer, so that you could, if he had his keys on him, they could hear the conversation going on. But basically what the USA is going into is corruption, racketeering, basically bank fraud, all kinds of different money allegations, in the sense that they're following the money, which is great. And how they can, honestly, if you think about it, when it comes to the mafia and things along those lines, and Al Capone, that's how they got those guys too, was getting them on the tax fraud, the racketeering, and all those kind of cases instead of actual problems they did.
And the middlemen rolled right over.
Exactly, and honestly, we'll get to that in a minute here too. But that's kind of what they're going after, which is definitely interesting, and it helps that CONCACAF is based in the U.S., so they're able to basically raid CONCACAF and take whatever they want on a search warrant because it's in U.S. soil. That's why a lot of people are wondering, well, it seems like it's just like CONCACAF people, oh, well, I don't see any corrupt Italians or French or anything like that being arrested, and it's like, well, their offices aren't in America, so they can't be from the U.S. side of things unless they were using an American bank. Like it could be as little as they have an account established at an American bank that they're wiring funds to the Cayman Islands from, or whatever. Or
if their internet gets routed through a server in this country. The funny thing is with I'm beginning to wonder if that's not why Sepp Blatter wouldn't come back. It's not that he's afraid of getting arrested. He's afraid of potentially having anything be used on our soil that could be used against him.
It's true. That's true.
God. That's so crazy.
Because any small thing that's done on our soil, he could easily get arrested for, which that's a very good point. Because I think too many people are thinking, well, Americans are bad because of the whole World Cup situation, and Sunil Gulati came out today and said, I don't care if it puts us in bad favor of a World Cup in the future. I'd rather clean up FIFA, which is fantastic. But that's basically the difference between the Swiss and the U.S. investigation, since the Swiss are just focusing on the World Cup bids and basically the bribes for the World Cup bids. Now, most of the bribes for CONCACAF, just to discuss the process of how that happened, it seemed like what was happening was FIFA and CONCACAF would sell the rights of the Gold Cup to a marketing company, and then the marketing company would turn around and sell to ESPN and other places like that, namely Traffic Sports, which, thank you God, because I hate Traffic Sports, they're ruining the game. But basically what would happen is there was supposed to be a bidding process, in the sense that I have 5 marketing companies, and all the marketing companies except for Traffic Sports are giving me lucrative offers for, like, $150 million or something like that. And then Traffic Sports would turn in like a $40 million bid. The reason why is because they knew they would A, get it, and B, because all that extra money from that bid would end up lining the pockets of the CONCACAF people that were handing over the bid, handing over the bid to Traffic Sports.
They said a $300 million bid ended up being like $150 million of those dollars went in bribes.
Correct. And then the worst part was that wasn't even the highest bid that year.
Right,
It was like a $500 million bid, and they didn't take it because they knew if they wouldn't get any of that money, it would go into bank accounts to help
the company.
Yeah, help the company. The thing they should be doing instead of my personal bank accounts.
Right. Right. Like what was it? What's his face? The dude from CONCACAF. His name is escaping me right now.
Jack Warner?
Former. Yeah, Jack Warner. He sold the rights for $1.
Yeah.
They sold him the rights for $1, and he turned around and sold them for what, $20 million or something.
Something like that.
So stupid. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So much corruption.
So, Joey, Tyler, what is your opinion on fixing the process for this? Because my biggest thing on this would be cutting out the middleman. There shouldn't be a middleman. Your dealing should be straight with FIFA and CONCACAF. There should be no marketing agency is going to go sell off the rights for TV use or whatever. There shouldn't be anything like that. You should be dealing straight with those companies. But what do you guys think?
Joey, go ahead.
It's difficult because my first initial reaction is to make it an offense so bad that no one wants to consider doing it again from the bribing side. I mean, because within economics, you solve a problem by attacking the demand side of something. So if there's a demand out there to host the World Cup, that's where you go. You have to make a punishment so severe for people involved that they wouldn't even think about doing it. Yeah. And the only thing I can think of is today is to suspend all national team activities for 5 cycles.
For those for all teams, or what are we talking here?
What do you mean?
For any country associated with bribing.
Okay. So basically, you're saying, well, say Trinidad and Tobago, you're associated with the bribing. You're not in any tournament for 5 years, correct?
Right.
So you're basically kind of taking the NCAA like.
Yes. If you also do that, they can't host anything either.
Okay. I kind of like that. Because you're kind of saying, well, you're not going to play at all if you are basically going to screw up. I like that. That's kind of getting to my point on fixing things, especially. We'll just kind of delve into that, too, while we're talking about, since it's one big mass discussion anyways. But one of my big things is there needs to be some sort of checks and balances in the sport right now, and they technically do with the, quote, FIFA courts.
Right.
But
they're checking their own balances. That's not exactly a check.
And that's not exactly.
Oliver call them like Chinese food in a way that's like done in like 5 minutes. Like that's what FIFA courts are.
That's not chicken, guys. So yeah, it's one of those things that they need. I don't know what organization would be the check for it though. I don't know if it would be like, say, like the one thing I was thinking about was, since they're being investigated for like all kinds of corruption and fraud and all this other stuff, one thing I was thinking of would be some sort of like joint task force between like the FBI, Interpol, or whatever. You'd have agencies from all over the place would have like a member, and then they would be like the oversight committee basically of wrongdoings by FIFA in a way. I mean, that was just a spitball idea. That wasn't anything major I want to elaborate on, but that's just kind of an vision of some sort, is like a civilian oversight committee of some sort, maybe, that has oversee of FIFA, but doesn't benefit from FIFA in any shape or form.
Right, and there has to be independent. There has to be independent inquiries that can actually progress. You know what I mean? Like with these, I mean, the guy that was doing the independent thing, he ended up resigning, right, and then later sued by Sepp Blatter.
Michael Garcia.
And that's a joke to me. I mean, he resigned because of what he found. I'm assuming. Again, that's all, just conjecture. But the bottom line is, how do you fix this? It's a systemic thing at this point. I feel like we would have to have some kind of transparency to the point where it is completely open from a certain, to a certain level. Obviously, you have to have some kind of secrecy with regard to the information that's being doled out. But I feel like there has to be somebody who is independent of FIFA being able to monitor what's going on, whether it's not necessarily a specific task force, but having the data open and available. Like transactions that go through these businesses, that they should have them readily available should an inquiry be made. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't be able to just say, well, we're not going to allow you to see our paperwork. Well, then how did you make this bid work? How does Qatar, right, get a bid for a summer World Cup in Qatar? It's
120-degree weather.
Not possible. They are now changing it for that bid. Obviously, there is some form of corruption there.
Correct.
Let's look into that a little bit. I don't know. If they're going to, parade their corruption in our faces, we should be able to say, hey, I want to fucking look at this and see what the hell's going on, and be able to make a judgment on my own, saying, okay, no, it's fine. It's no big deal. Or somebody with more authority than just me, obviously, but somebody with authority could be able to say, okay, that makes sense. That business deal actually is legitimate. Like, every other company is supposed to work in the world. It just doesn't make sense that they're allowed this monopoly of stupidity.
Yeah, that's true. One other point I want to go ahead, Joey. Go ahead.
There are basic fundamental problems with FIFA. I mean, for one, no one knows how much their executives make at all.
Exactly.
They don't release that information. They don't feel like they have to release that information. They call themselves a non-profit organization.
That's how they hide.
And they have a $1.5 billion reserve. What kind of non-profit organization has a $1.5 billion reserve?
And profit in $5.7 billion, too. I don't know how many companies do that and be a non-profit.
Well, what they do is disperse that money off the top.
The Swiss have gotten involved because they're just as pissed off as the rest of us are. Yeah. I mean, they're using their home for this garbage. Like, this is complete insanity that an entity could be just, so full of themselves to think that they can get away with what they have and keep doing it. Like the Qatar bid was like the ultimate slap in the face. Like, please try something.
Yeah.
Because we're getting tired of running circles around you. So here's this one thing that you guys can possibly get us on for some shit.
Right. Not to compare FIFA to a serial killer, but this is what the patterns of a mental person, that's what they do. They begin with super secret stuff, taking little things, doing little things dangerously, and then it just escalates. Then all of a sudden they're dumping bodies like they don't care, like they're just used to it. It's no big deal. That's how I feel FIFA has been the last 30 years. It's like, well, we're going to do this secretly, and it's going to be really, really easy to get past because nobody's going to know. Then now they're talking about it. Then now they're showing us right in front of our faces. Like, it's to the point now where the trinkets that they're taking from their victims are millions and millions of dollars, and nobody can do anything about it. They're just watching them spend the money. It's pathetic. They told everybody that they had to have Budweiser in Brazil, had to have Budweiser in the stadiums. I mean, that is fucking ridiculous. Like, they don't allow Budweiser there.
Budweiser, that's why.
Yeah, but they don't allow beer at football matches because of a health concern for other patrons, and it's a safety issue. So we have to allow Budweiser.
They have a right to sell beer. They have a right.
Jesus Christ, I can't even. I can't even.
All right. Well, with all this investigating, obviously everyone knows who Sepp Blatter is, and he's the top man, probably the most corrupt. He's always kind of. It's always. You always got to say he's either the ringleader or the guy that's so dumb he doesn't see it going on. I'd like to pick the former because of the fact that you have to know what's going on, especially at that high of a position. Do we think these investigations ever affect him in any shape or form? And we'll get to what's going on tomorrow after this. But what do you guys think? Will either investigation ever turn to Sepp, and why do you think so?
I do think so. I think it's only a matter of time before the underlings roll over onto Sepp. I think the biggest issue is trying to get something that you can nail him with, because, like you said, Al Capone was on tax evasion. That's how they got him. It wasn't through the murders, the crazy gambling, these theft. It was all about stupid tax evasion. My God. I mean, so for me, they're going to have to find something that can stick before they even go after the head monster.
True.
But as far as I'm concerned, the fact that they've told him and several other officials in FIFA that they cannot leave Switzerland and they don't have access to their bank accounts, that tells me that they are looking for that sticky object. So.
Agreed. Joey, thoughts?
Oh, I don't have thoughts. I have a rant.
All right, I'm going to sit back, relax, you go.
This is ultimately leading up to getting Sepp Blatter. A lot of, because of points already made, when you go for the main head of a Hydra, you don't start attacking the big one. You get all the little ones out of the way, and they're going to feed so much information about him, it's going to be unreal. I mean, there's already so much information out there regarding Sepp Blatter and his, almost 2 decades worth of history as president of the organization. I mean, right from the start, he shouldn't have been president at all. He was, he was accused then of filling the ballot with votes that he necessarily wasn't going to get, and he ended up winning then. And you fast forward 4 years to 2002, and there were more accusations made then by his close confidant and former protege, Zen Ruffinen, about financial issues that didn't look right. After everything was said and done, Sepp Blatter survived all of that, and nothing was ever made of it, and Zen Ruffinen pretty much was told to leave. So, this happens a lot in Sepp Blatter's history, where he has people do things for him and then immediately turns on them. Back to 1998 again, specifically his dealing with the now Qatari and Asian football president, Mohammed bin Hammam. There were rumors then that Hammam was helping Sepp Blatter with the 1998 election. And fast forward to now, and Qatar has a World Cup.
Yeah. Like,
something's you can kind of connect some dots here. If you've seen Jeremy Schaap's expose on Sepp Blatter, he goes over a lot of this, and it's even said that Ben Hammam was promised to become FIFA president once Blatter was done. His last tenure was going to be back in like 2011, and as we all know, that didn't happen. Ben Hammam actually dropped overnight running against Sepp Blatter the night before. And people are kind of like, well, why did that happen? And the idea is that Sepp Blatter said, if you drop out and I maintain my presidency, I'll make sure that nobody touches Qatar's World Cup. And what has he been doing? What has Sepp Blatter been doing now for 4 years? He's definitely been in favor of this fucking monstrosity of injustice of placing the World Cup there for no reason at all. Where a worker, more than one worker a day on average, is dying.
Yep. Humanity.
Yeah. So, I mean, in all realism, this entire process with Qatar and them getting this World Cup bid and the influence that they're having on their people and workers from India and wherever else, with all these people dying, this is like technically a terrorist operation, and Sepp Blatter is promoting it. He's promoting terrorism.
Pretty much.
He's an asshole. He is the biggest asshole on the planet.
In my opinion, he's promoting murder every single day by giving them this. He's promoting these people to go to their death for the stupid World Cup that shouldn't happen anyways. But
you think that a guy so towards the end of his lifetime would wisen up and say, you know what, I don't want this much red gushing out of my ledger, by the time I'm done on this planet. But still, here he is promoting death and just moral injustice all around the globe for his own personal gain. And
pretty much.
That's just who he is. And to reiterate again, he stabs people in the back that do things for him. Like even today, Platini has asked him to resign. Platini used to be his boy.
Yeah.
He used to be his number one guy.
And now he's trying to fight him.
When 2011 happened and they were going to do the 2018 bid and 2022 bid, they said that only a country in Europe was going to get the 2018 bid. Like they made Blatter made sure of that to Platini. And now here we are 4 years later, and Platini is telling Blatter to step down.
And they gave it to a fringe European country too, which is kind of my point. It's like.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but we could probably expect Platini to be out of UEFA's office soon for trying to go against Sepp.
Probably. So my last point on this before we talk about what's happening tomorrow, Tyler mentioned the proof and them rolling over and all that stuff, and that was kind of where I was going with this. I feel like there's two aces in the hole right now in this investigation, in the sense that you have Warner and Webb, who Webb was even being groomed to be like you said, the one guy was a protege that he turned on. Webb was the next protege. They were talking about Jeffrey Webb being one of the next FIFA guys in the future because he was young, charismatic, supposedly clean, and he was gonna be one of those guys that could be the next guy after Blatter finally either died or moved on. I feel like between those two guys, Warner and Webb, I feel like they would have the most information too, because they've both been in close exco meetings with Blatter, and Warner especially, because I'm sure he had very close information to Blatter with the whole 2004 bid for 2010 for South Africa, which they already have charged Warner with that type of all that type of stuff. So I'm assuming he has some sort of information lying around to cover himself and plea out a deal of some sort, so that he'll roll over and be like, "Hey, Sepp Blatter did all this." So I have a feeling that will be when Sepp gets his comeuppance. It'll happen when Warner or Webb or all those guys just turn on him, because I feel like if you have enough fingers pointing at Blatter, he'll fall in that sense. Now, we're recording this on the Thursday before the FIFA election for anybody that happens to listen after this, after said time. It's down to Blatter and Jordan's Prince Ali. I don't know the rest of his name, and I'm not going to try it. I don't know if either of you can pronounce it or not.
I know it ends in Hussein. That's all I know.
Well, hey, he's Middle Eastern, so there we go. So it comes down to a vote tomorrow. What? Whatever. It comes down to a vote tomorrow. Every federation has an equal vote, so there's no like USA has more people, they have a higher vote. It's one vote per country kind of thing. There's 209 votes. Well, the way it works is on the first ballot, you have to have 2/3 of the votes to win. After the first ballot, if it's close or not 2/3, obviously, they will go to a second ballot, which will be a simple majority. There's already reports Sepp has it in the bag. I'm not too sure. A lot of you mentioned Platini today. He came out and he said, we're voting for Prince Ali. Sunil Gulati from USA came out today. He said, we're voting for Prince Ali. Now, what's in question to me, and I want to know what your guys' thoughts on this, are what are the minnow countries going to do? Because there's so many small countries that have lined their own pockets because of Sepp, that are loyal to Sepp, that if they vote for the other guy, there's no beneficiary for them in that sense. I'm looking at Africa because CAF is one of the most corrupt out of all of them, but they're not going to get touched because nobody cares, and sadly, because you've had many countries that never even make the World Cup that line their pockets. There's been time. The Nigerians especially, they get suspended, I think, every year in some shape or form because of some sort of fraud or some sort of lining their own pockets. Zimbabwe is another country that comes to mind where they've lined their pockets like crazy. But to you guys, do you think enough of the smaller countries will vote for Prince Ali to get Sepp out? And do you think this will end if Sepp is out and change for the future? Jump off at once.
Yeah, this is, for all intents and purposes, I mean, Sepp Blatter is going to be still in charge by the end of the day tomorrow. This is going to be a very long process. This is going to have to come down to Sepp being removed and being voted out. As you said, all the countries get the same amount of votes, or at least their votes are weighted the same, which is complete bullshit. As big as bullshit as the payout for the profits for the World Cup are, where they all get the same share.
Well, it's just to make it so that they don't have to pay so much money to the big guys. They can just pay a little bit of money to the little guys, and then they get their vote. It's easier.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's all
like, hey, Tahiti, here's like $500,000. You're done. That's it.
Yeah, it's all connected. It's all horseshit. I mean, there's no reason that Liechtenstein should be getting the same amount as Spain, and San Marino should be getting the same amount as Brazil. That's right. Fucking incredulous. Like,
half vote.
So yeah, as far as seeing how this is gonna end, I mean, Sepp Blatter is still gonna remain in power, and I'm still looking forward to a very long and lengthy process. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I think if UEFA does stick to its guns, Platini in specific, and if the vote goes through, like they don't want it to, I think they should walk out or not show up, even as a sign of protest. Because if UEFA doesn't vote, it may not mean much as far as the voting because it is just one vote. Mm-hmm. It'll mean a hell of a lot more than just sucking up and voting in the wrong direction. If they just get up and walk out, if Platini just says to his face, as he did today, you need to resign, and he said no, but I think it means a lot to have them say, we're not voting for this because we know it's rigged. That's a big deal. I mean, if you read the press release yesterday from the UEFA president, it was strongly worded, very powerful, very, very powerful. And so, I don't know. I would like to see this change, but I think Joey's right. I don't know how it's going to change tomorrow. Even if they do, let's say it delays 6 months, he's still got to deal with all this evidence crap. We've still got to figure out if he's actually guilty, although we already know he is. Yeah. He hasn't done anything wrong by the courts. stance, right? And they can't prove anything, even though
Yeah.
we all know he's a fucking criminal. He hasn't really done anything wrong in the court of law. So, innocent till proven guilty, I guess. It's supposed to work in some ways, but in this case, it just makes me pissed off.
Correct. Now, here's kind of my thing. It's kind of funny, and I was thinking about it earlier. I kind of wish I had. I don't know if anybody of either you two have seen the movie from Richard Pryor, Brewster's Millions, but in that movie, there's a campaign for New York mayor, and they're both sleazy bastards, and it's one of those situations that he doesn't want to run himself and win election, but he wastes money because he has to on a campaign that's completely called Vote for None of the Above. And I wish there was some sort of campaign right now for the FIFA people to be like, vote for none of the above, because there's nothing that's going to change. Yeah. And I do agree that Sepp will win. I don't think it'll be on the first ballot, the whole two-thirds scenario. I think it will have to be the simple majority on the second ballot. The thing is, for me, is I actually want him to stay in as president for now. The main reason why is I feel like if he's still in power, that will keep those open channels of the investigation to finding the corruption connected to him. Because I feel like if he's out of office, he won't have that connection anymore to the office, so they won't be able to really search him themselves, honestly.
I think it takes 6 months no matter what. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Years, so.
And that's kind of my other point, though. It's like if he's still in office, he's still going to be arrogant, and he's probably going to still F up and do what he's been doing. So I feel like if he wins, he'll be doing that still, and eventually he'll slip up or something, and when they get everybody to turn on him, everything will kind of come to a fruition point, and basically we'll see, hey, see you later, Sepp. No more Sepp. I think that'll have to be the way it happens, in all honesty. I have reservations on this Prince Ali guy, too, because there's certain things I don't feel comfortable with, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that he was very pro-Qatar. I mean, I get it, because he's part of that he's part of the AFC, so he's gonna promote the AFC,
right?
The one that's going for the AFC, but I have some reservations for that too. Sunil Gulati came out today and did say, he knows Prince Ali personally, and said that it would be a step in the right direction. I don't know how much the true that is, or if that's just him throwing smoke because of anybody but Sepp at this point.
Well, he seems like he has a lot more integrity, obviously. I mean, having already been a prince and then also still going to different colleges, universities in America, and then also in England. So pretty prestigious universities from what I recall. I thought they said Oxford, but I could have been wrong.
You could be right on that.
But he went to prestigious universities. You don't do that if you're just a slouch as a prince. Yeah. I mean, Jesus, he's already a prince. What more does he need? He's got all the women he could handle, money, everything. I mean, at this point, he went to school because he wanted to learn and understand the world better, and I think that's great. Now, whether or not he's going to be any less sleazy than Blatter, I don't know.
That's hard to tell, honestly, because I feel like even if they do clean it up, there will still be some minor corruption, but it won't be on the grandest scale like there is now.
Yeah.
That's probably the issue there, in the sense that there would still be something, but it wouldn't be like major corruption. It'd be like a small kickback here and there.
If he wins, I'll celebrate. I'm straight up.
I will too, honestly. I don't see it happening. I kind of hope he does, in a way, just so it'll be a big slap in Sepp's face.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Any other personal thoughts on this matter, guys? I have one, but I wanted to see what you have.
No, I think I'm all tapped.
Yeah, Joey?
I personally love that one of the whistleblowers for the Qatar bid is a woman that she oversaw the media in response to the bid. And it's been a long ordeal for her. She's a mother of 2 autistic kids.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was in the room and witnessed money changing hands for the Qatar bid, and decided to act on it because it was the wrong thing happening, and journalists weren't respecting her 3 days beforehand, even when she was telling them that this was going to happen. Qatar was going to get the bid, and then it happened, and then the journalists wanted every piece of her, wanted to know everything that she knew.
Mm-hmm.
It went so fast for her as far as FIFA wanted to talk with her as well and have an internal investigation, and then it never happened because Sepp Blatter announced when, and not by name, but when she would be arriving and at what location to deter her from being present, to basically testify to FIFA itself about.
He bullied her out of it, man.
Yeah. And I'm this is a really long explanation, but I mean she's been threatened for her life because she signed a disclosure agreement for $1 million not to say anything how the bid was going to happen, and that tells you a lot too. I mean, why do you have to hush somebody up with $1 million if you're doing things the right way?
Exactly. One of my big takeaways when I was researching this topic, we talked a lot about Jack Warner and what he did with CONCACAF and being head of Trinidad and Tobago. One of the worst things I saw was he had about $2 million earmarked for youth facility. And one of the things I've been big about with the sport is always getting youth involved, getting the future of the game, whatever country you're talking about, whether it be here in the States or somewhere else, just constantly getting the youth involved, because especially in poorer countries, that's their escape from the reality of how poor they are, is going out with their friends and playing a pickup game of soccer or something like that on the streets. Well, the whole point of it was to make a youth facility in Trinidad and Tobago that would be a very state-of-the-art setup. Not exactly an academy, but it would be like a row of fields, basically, because Trinidad and Tobago is not a big country. You can get around the whole island, the whole islands, I should say, around pretty quickly. You know, it's not like it's basically by drive from Cleveland to Columbus kind of thing to get around the whole island. Well, basically what happened was there was about $2 million earmarked in his budget for this state-of-the-art facility. Well, the land at this supposed state-of-the-art facility, you go to it now, it's just a dirt field with two thrown together goalposts that just kind of look like garbage. It's just, to me, that's despicable. You just line your pocket from money that should have gone to these poor kids to actually go out and play, and I couldn't believe it. I was just like, this guy I hope he rots somewhere, because that's the worst thing you can do is basically make an unprivileged kid even more unprivileged by not giving him something that you were supposed to give. But that was my big takeaway.
One thing I do want to say, this is totally off topic, and I'm sorry for breaking in.
No, it's okay. We're closing out the show.
I honestly feel like, I know the listeners can't see you, but I feel like you're about to break out into Conan's In the Year 3000. All I see is your face with a light shining right on it.
I'm doing ghost stories, guys.
In the year 2000.
By the campfire. Well, it's funny because if the listeners can't see our screens, but Joey's like the bright angel with the bright background, and like you and I are sitting in the dark, just looking.
Anyway,
all right, Joe. I think that's it for today.
I am so anti-Sepp Blatter that I'm glowing. So that's what
exactly.
There you go, anti-Sepp Blatter.
I didn't get to finish my one thought though. If I
go ahead, do it.
So like I said, this woman that's been battling the Qatar bid and Sepp Blatter, I personally love it.
Mm-hmm.
As we know, Sepp Blatter is, he's very indulgent in sexism. This is the same guy that said that one way to improve the women's game was wearing tighter shorts.
Jeez.
I'm glad that the whistleblower is a female in this case, and doing everything that she can to cooperate with the FBI and
awesome.
This whole fucking thing down.
And if people watch that Jeremy Schaap thing, she has an interview with Jeremy, I believe, an interview that Jeremy got with her, right?
Yeah. She also has her handle as well. I forget, but yeah, you can look that up, and
I'll look it up later.
She's personally loving every bit of this right now too.
Yeah. Okay, well, gentlemen, it was a good show. Great topics to talk about. I don't think we have any more final thoughts after all that. But till we meet again.
I have one final thought.
Oh, geez. Okay. You're gonna make me say till we meet again. Go ahead.
Forza Napoli.
Forza Napoli! There we go. All right. Till we meet again, gentlemen.
See you, universe.
Arrivederci.